I've been thinking a lot lately. A lot about the world around us, and I'm awestruck. The more I wonder about it, the very fabric of existence and what makes us real, and all those big questions of the universe, I'm alive. I'm at a position in my life where things are how they are, and it astounds me that I, of all people, have gone through some of the things that I've gone through, and I've persevered. But honestly, I feel like it's just luck. Like, I really don't understand, like, how things have stacked up into my favor over this crazy period of time known as my perception of existence. And something even greater than that is I have probably the most beautiful son on the planet. He's amazing. He's smart, and when I was his age, I was playing with dirt. This kid is, he's figuring out anything and everything that has to do with technology. He just knows about it instantly. It's crazy. And then I remember when I was his age, I was the same way. With technology, it's like my dad, for example, when he first got me my PlayStation and my Nintendo 64 and all that stuff. He really didn't know how to hook it up exactly, but me, I was born into a world where these things already existed. So, to me, it was second nature hooking a home console up. And so for my son, he's developed around this world that is built essentially with technology to make life easier. But to him, it's just second nature. Something interesting just happened recently. The Electronic Gaming Expo, horrible with acronyms, E3. Wow, it was the first time in years that I watched the press conferences, with the exception of Ubisoft, because they got to get their PR guys in check. That every fucking year their conference just gets worse and worse and worse. Anyway, but I was just enthusiastic about the entire thing. It's like, for the first time in years, it's like I felt this love and passion of games, like, in the industry as a whole, like, rise up within me. It was exhilarating. And it made me think of, wow. It made me think back when I was Michael's age, my son. He didn't have to deal with the bullshit that we had to deal with, Essentially, his life is going to be easier because he's been born into a world with technologies and services provided that just make living easy. And at the same time, he's going to have a very, very hard life. Living, will be one thing. Living in this world of technology is going to be relatively simple and, simplistic and easy and enjoyable. But at the same time, though, to live on my level for my son in the future, when he gets to be my age, that is going to be difficult for him. We live in a very interesting world. My son will never experience the heartache and the turmoil that had to come with going to Blockbuster on a Friday night, finding the one movie that you wanted, have one copy, but then find someone pick it up before you. He lives in a world with Netflix and Hulu and all these great services where he's never going to have to experience having to physically go somewhere to pick up a film or a video game. He's not going to have to deal with that, which is kind of good. It's really good in a lot of different ways, but at the same time, when you think about it, it's kind of horrible because he's missing out on the core experience of what makes everything make sense. I'm not saying that without Blockbuster or Hollywood Video around, that our offspring are going to have a horrible time. Oh, they couldn't experience going here and doing this. No, it's not that. My parents grew up in a time frame where technology was advancing, but perception-wise, they didn't see it as going really quickly. And just like us, because we don't see as, we get all these brand new technologies and services, we don't see them flowing very quickly, but technology moves so much faster than you can imagine. It's 2015. This is the year that Marty McFly and Doc Brown jumped into the future. and they had hoverboards. Well, 2015, hoverboards have been littered throughout this year. It's fucking nuts, right? And it's like we never take a moment to think that we keep thinking of this great grand future, you know? It's like we want to live in a society, where literally everything is beyond any of our imaginations. We're living in the future. I mean, we're living in the present, but if you really think about it, 100 years ago, the technologies that we have today weren't even thought of. They couldn't really be conceptualized for what they are. Like seeing prime example, E3, seeing the HoloLens display, that, for me, that blew virtual reality out of the water. You know, like the idea of augmented reality, you know, being a thing on paper just sounded okay. We wanted to go into this virtual world and everything. But when you actually visualize and your brain can conceptualize the idea of augmented reality is taking the real world around you and creating something new and exciting out of it in such a way that you cannot comprehend any other, you know, version of virtual reality as being even worth a damn. Seeing that really like made me think of, we are living in the future, you know, but we're all so worried about the present. And ultimately, this is what I'm getting back to with my son, of why his future is going to be difficult, of why my son getting to my level is going to be hard for him. And we live in a world dictated by balance. However, the human race is a virus. We are definitely beyond anything and everything we should be. We are an organism that continues to shape the environment to our needs instead of adapting to the environment around us. It's one of the crazy things when I think of the theory of evolution. Humans, when we evolved, we took so much strength with our intelligence that the rest of our physical features diminished because we no longer needed them because we were smarter. And although it was good, that meant that things would get to the point where we could no longer live in this world. We would have to form the world to our needs. And that's another crazy thing when people want to discount any idea, any notion of global warming. We see evidence of it all around us. And there are several different groups of people when it comes to the whole denying thing. They want to deny it because of their faith, which I don't understand how that really works, to be honest. It's like you believe in God, so you don't believe in global warming. There's not a single thing about global warming that, even for a fraction of itself, tries to disprove the existence of God. So I don't understand why using God as ammunition against the idea that we are killing our planet, which we are. We are terraforming the world in such a way and burning fuels in such a way that are speeding up the process of which global warming occurs. I'm not going to spend this entire video explaining the whole thing, but if you're religious, trust me, you can be religious devoutly, and you can still believe in global warming. There's nothing about the two just opposing one another. Nothing. So that whole excuse of like, well, I believe in God, therefore I cannot believe in global warming, that doesn't fucking cut it, because nothing about global warming says anything about religion whatsoever. It just says that basically the whole idea about global warming is like, holy shit, this is our planet and this is what we're doing to it. We're basically suffocating it. And it reacts in very particular ways. But this is the planet that I'm leaving my son. Is it personally my fault? No. It's the fault of my generation, which in turn learned its behavior through the generation before us. My father's generation was a great generation. They had great morals, values, and beliefs. But because of social change and development of new technologies, my generation interpreted those lessons very, very differently. So as time has gone on, we, because of the generation gap, no longer look at the world the same way. I feel bad for my son because he's born into this crazy, crazy world. My son is going to be born into a world that is suffocating on itself. He's going to be born into a world where people are primarily focused on not finding a way to come together, but more so divide one another. You know, it's another interesting thing that I've noticed, that people will spend so much time trying to prove another person wrong instead of trying to prove themselves right. And it's nuts how we spend all of our time, we spend all of our attention focusing on things that don't fucking matter. Right now, we're worried about this whole Confederate flag thing. And then you have one half arguing like, yeah, we should totally get rid of it. And the other half like saying like, no, pride and history and all this shit behind it. It's like, yeah, there's the Confederate flag, it does have a semblance of pride behind it, you know, based upon its roots and whatnot. And on the same note, you can't discredit the fact that, yeah, there is a lot of hate and bigotry that accompanies that history. You know, it's like, it's just the truth of the matter. You know, it's like when people in the future tell a story about America, America's a great, grand, beautiful place with a fucking horrible history on its own citizens. That even like goes up until today. I can guarantee you that the whole thing with Andrew Snowden and the NSA and all that shit, we're going to be talking about that 100 years from now. It's like, yeah, America's this great place. However, our government is built up in such a way to where it doesn't trust its own citizens with their own privacy. You know, much like, oh, the United States is this great place of freedom and religious, you know, you're allowed to do and, you know, believe what you want. However, we believe that it's okay to own another human being. There was a point in time in America that we believed that was okay, you know. So it's like when you look at the histories of things and you say that you want to be proud of something, you can't discount the shit from it. It's like you can't say America is the greatest, best place on the entire planet and then totally not, you know, acknowledge the fact that slavery was such a huge thing here. I think America's amazing. I think it's fucking fantastic. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I think that we've done some pretty fucked up things as a country, as a melding of citizens on this geographical location on the planet. We've come together and done some pretty fucked up, horrible things. We've done some great things. You know, we've gone to the aid of all corners of the world because of those great things from my father's generation, of the form of America that they believed in. And it's like, you know, we used to go to war because we were doing the right thing, not because of this reason or that reason. You know, did we go to Iraq or whatever for fucking oil? I don't know. I don't care. You know, that really wasn't my war to get involved with. I you know, was involved, when I was enlisted, I went to Afghanistan. I even think going there was kind of horseshit. I mean, we got Osama bin Laden, thank God that's what we went to go take care of and do, but I don't know why we stayed there so much longer afterwards. You know, that's what they don't really tell us. It's like, we're going after this group of people. We got the leader of this group of people. Well, we're staying around a little bit longer. I mean, the details are irrelevant. We're just staying a little bit longer. With Iraq, we eventually got Saddam Hussein. We stayed around for quite some time. I don't think it was such a bad thing, though, because we were helping a country go from one form of government into another, one that was taken less power from a centralized government and you know, given this idea of democracy. The fact that every vote counted, which the American way, every vote does not fucking count. Okay? I don't blame people that want to walk out around and say, well, I don't vote because my vote doesn't matter. When you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, your vote does not fucking matter because you are one person. But that's why we need to collectively all go out and vote. That's like the double-edged sword of it. You know, you can't convince everyone to go out and vote. You can only convince a couple people to go out and vote. But because you're only convincing one or two people or a very small handful of people, when you really think about it, you're not changing shit. The way that our system is designed, it's like either everyone does it and shit goes the way that we all want it to go, or things continue to go the way that it has been and nothing fucking changes. But on that note, everyone that did not get up to go vote are going to continue to sit around and fucking bitch and moan about shit not changing, even though they are essentially part of the problem. This is the crazy thing about humanity. And it's all this shit that I'm talking about what makes our planet fucked, which makes our society fucked, which makes, you know, our advancements in technology a great thing, but a horrible thing because it's eventually going to get to the point where humans need not apply, and any job that a human can do, a machine can do. This is the world that I'm giving my son. I'm handing this over to him. I wouldn't want to give... This is a horrible present to give anyone. He's my favorite person in the world. I love my kid to death. He's fucking fantastic. This is the world my dad gave me. I'm not mad at him. I'm not blaming him, no. Because it wasn't his generation's fault. He was given a broken world by his dad, and his generation gave their own interpretation on how to deal with things. You know, we don't worry about global warming because we realize by the time that the whole global warming thing comes to affect any of us, we're not going to be here for it. That's the crazy thing about humanity. As much as we don't want to pay attention to it, as much as we want to ignore it and act like it's not a thing, we're going to fucking die sooner or later. We're all going to meet the great end. And because of that, we realize that anything that happens as a result of our living on this planet isn't going to affect us anymore. So we can do whatever the fuck we want. Poison the planet as much as we want. Destroy our social structures in such a way to where we have no moral bindings whatsoever. Our society will be descended into a realm of chaos, which will then force us to have a government like our own that increases its own powers over everyone else on the planet to the point where everyone is enslaved one way or another, be it to technology, be it to the fucking fellow government, other citizens that have attained a level of power so much so that they can dictate our every single fucking movement. We just lose these freedoms based upon how we allow the future to progress. The future is a scary fucking place, and we're living in it. This future that we talked about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we're fucking living in it today. And we're not doing anything to fix any of it. We're just allowing shit to get fucked up. I am giving this world to my kid, and that's fucked up. I love my son to death, but I would much rather give him Mars than give him Earth. I'd rather have my son have a brand new start than to figure out how to fix everything my generation fucked. Everything my dad's generation fucked. Everything my grandfather's generation fucking fucked. Everything my great-great-grandfather's generation screwed into the fucking ground decades ago. centuries ago, my bloodline, and everyone tied to that generation took the steps necessary to progressively make the world as we know it today, the future, dystopian. Now, it's great. Our present is great. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great fucking things about this world. I'm not making this video to bitch. I'm making it to moan, and I'm not trying to be this huge, giant, negative Nancy. Because there's a lot of things about the present and the progression of technologies and different ways that we're connecting with these technologies to better influence a greater level of positivity in the world around us. And we can finally use these technologies to grasp with one another and cling together and create a world worth living in. That is what my generation is forcing upon the next generation. We are trying to let our voice be heard. We are trying to inform our children of a good future. That our present and the world as we can perceive it at this moment, handed down to us from our forefathers, doesn't have to be this huge negative thing that we can perceive it to be. It can be something beautiful. And I want that for my son. I want my son to live in a beautiful world worth bragging about. It's a crazy time to be alive. But then at the same time, for my grandparents, for my dad, like the generation he grew up in, it was an amazing time to be alive. My dad was born to see us land on the moon. I was born in time for the internet to go from a government military structure into commercial use with the birth of the World Wide Web. You know, the internet as we know it today. The visual medium of actually going to a website and actually exploring and connecting with other people. We were born into this fucking amazing time period. It's 2015 now. By 2020, shit's gonna get even fucking better, right? Technology is gonna just project us into the more realms of the future than we can ever hope to imagine. You know, this shit that I'm doing right now, recording on my computer audio and then recording video over here on my phone on an amazing tripod. I try to explain this shit to my grandfather when he was my age, and he'd be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This doesn't make any sense. You couldn't do all of that. That's science fiction. That's way off into the future. My family's never going to see that. But no, here I am, living proof that we're seeing this amazing shit. And I do not know a lot about the universe. I don't. And I'm not ever going to claim to know a lot. But I can definitely tell you this. I spent an infinite amount of time not being alive. And I'm going to spend an even longer period of time than that being dead. I don't know what comes next. I don't know what the answers to the universe are or how we came to be. I do know there's a lot of shit that I don't understand. I do know there's a lot of shit that science doesn't understand. But ultimately, I know that my time right here on Earth is finite from the perspective in which I see it. My consciousness, composed of these particles, seen from these eyes, is something that will never, ever happen again. You know, everything is basically just one form of energy or another. That's what everything is essentially, when you break it down, it's all energy moving at different wavelengths. So the energy and wavelengths that formulate my consciousness, well, they could all come back together one day. But that's no longer me. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. But like I said, I don't know about anything about the end. I don't know about the beginning. I do know that our world is screwing itself into the ground, and we're allowing this shit to fucking happen. You know, this whole MTV, this whole Kardashian thing. Like, I can go on and on and on. It's fucking horseshit. There are more things in the world that we need to be paying attention to other than all this crap. My dad gave me a beautiful world that my generation helped screw into the ground. But it was kind of already set in motion that way by his generation and the generations before him. We don't inherit the world from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children, right? And I want to give my son something really fantastic. And I know that my generation has to help make sure that he has something worth giving his kids. You know, my dad's generation did what they could. They handed us something, you know, broken but not completely shattered. And I'm not gonna lie, in the time since I've been born, shit's kind of been getting worse and worse and worse. So we didn't start the fire; it was always burning, but we definitely threw some gas on it. So anyway, blah bitty blah 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 blah. The world is fucked. Make the world a fucking better place. Quit hating on each other, because we're all part of one race, the human race. We all got the same color on the inside. And though we might speak different languages and make different sounds from our voice, we all came from the same cosmic event that spawned into what we are now. And we all have different perceptions and viewpoints on that. But what if all those different perceptions and different viewpoints were just our personal conscious perceptions from one point in space of describing the exact same event? You ever think of that? Anyway, I'm rambling. This video is getting a bit too long. Long story short, don't be an asshole. We're giving this world to our kids. Let's give them something worth sharing to their kids. This is MaceValor, signing off. All that jazz. Bye.